Hello, everyone. My name is Misak. I'm one of the co-founders of WizeGen. WizeGen is an online tech platform which helps children navigate online situations safely. In today's session, which is going to be a very short session, we are going to talk about what to do if your child is talking to strangers online. And now, interestingly, and contrary to many of our beliefs, it's actually the most prevalent harmful situation for children. A 2018 meta-analysis found roughly 1 in 9 children experienced this, especially sexual solicitation. And a 2025 systematic review found that most kids, more than 10%, experience this. So it's continuously consistent and even growing. And a 13-month study of children between the age of 12 and 15 found that 25%, 23 to 25% reported that this is actually happening to them quite regularly. Now, what we want to talk about is how these situations begin and what happens basically. So many of us think that there is like a monstrous guy coming in and trying to actually get connected to our children, which is not very true. And interestingly, it's exactly the opposite. So it's usually basically a very, very friendly interaction. It's mainly towards, let's say, initial sort of connection building with like really small comments, sometimes in the gaming environment, sending like gifts that many of these platforms allow. And this actually builds, let's say, connection and then build up trust, and then the harmful stuff happen. Now, just very simply, for instance, in a case which is quite common, small message interactions happen between strangers and your child. And for instance, the most common thing is that then the stranger asks the child to go from one platform to another one. And it's called platform switching or platform migration. So it starts with like access to your child's contact, then the stranger builds connection with them, and then they will basically build trust, and obviously then it escalates. Now, for instance, in a Roblox kind of situation, in the game of Roblox, what happens is that the stranger asks your child to, for instance, take the conversation to Discord, which is another popular platform. Many of parents even don't know what Discord is. And we even don't know Roblox, to be honest. And then when it goes to like more sophisticated stuff, we don't have any clue what happens. So, and then on Discord, like for instance, on fan communities, let's say groups of games, private contact and exchanges happen, and then it takes weeks and weeks for parents to understand what is happening. Like for instance, in the interaction, they can say, hey, you are very good at this game. I really want to interact with you more often. I love to learn from you from this game. I look forward to our chat every day. And then children basically react very positively to these interactions. At some point, secrecy starts, and then they say, yeah, don't tell your parents, but they don't understand our friendship, but let's keep exchanging messages. And obviously, then the harmful situation escalates. And things like, for instance, I want to see you. Can you send me a photo? And maybe share your contact details, your phone number, your WhatsApp, etc., etc. And typically, as I said, it's very, very long process. And for us as parents to understand this and learn about it, it is usually quite late in the process that we get into it. But why kids respond like this? It's very important to know that this is actually part of their biological sort of growth DNA. Where they really want to feel the sense of belonging, and they are shaping their identity in social interactions. And because of, let's say, the flattery that happens in the exchanges that I just mentioned, and obviously because of their curious mind, these interactions escalate and become like super strong very fast. And out of boredom, children really seek to create and bond new connections. And as I said, this is part of their growth DNA. And they really grow up with these things. And this is actually part of like them becoming a social animal in a sense. So that's why it's actually very, very natural and very evolutionarily kind of prevalent for every child for this to happen. But it's also good to understand that basically what their brain is doing at this point, which is basically seeking connection and basically creating, let's say, social bonds, is the harmful kind of vulnerability that they have, especially in online situations, because many of the predators, child predators, actually exploit this exact kind of vulnerability from children and exploit that and just build on that and make use of that. And this is what happens in almost every child interaction. Now, if you know that, you understand that this is not a bad child, or this is not a negligence kind of situation, or it's not because your child was not paying attention to your advice. It's because you understand that this is like a kind of a common biological evolutionary sort of thing for them. Now, the warning signs are actually quite interesting. You have to know that these things usually start with more secret, kind of secretive behavior with the phones. You walk in the room, they just try to hide their phone. They usually switch apps when you are in, you just walk into them. From, for instance, I don't know, Roblox, they jump into like a platform like Discord, and they just, when you walk in, they just jump back on Roblox and things like that. And you do see like emotional changes as well, like anxiety or aggression or things like that. And here and there, they talk about like chatting with their new friend. These are the things that you need to be very mindful about. Now, what not to do in these situations: you shouldn't panic. Children respond really negatively to your negative behavior and kind of behavior like panic. And you have to understand that as soon as you blame them for this, it's going to basically be a whole different game. They are not going to feel safe. They are not going to trust you with like the situation anymore, and they will build even a higher wall and be more secretive about it. But one more thing is that you also have to understand that you should not seize it. You should not delete the interactions, because if you wanted to, for instance, talk to authorities about it, or even like psychologists about it, you have to have evidence, and you have to have documented evidence on that. So it's important for you to keep all of these interactions as well. Now, what you should do is to stay calm, stay curious, and be more collaborative. And for instance, the line that you can use is to say that I'm very glad that you told me this. Can you help me understand the situation a little bit better? What happened? What exactly was the kind of build up to this? Where did it start? Where did it end? Where are you right now with this person? And I always try to document everything, especially if you want to talk to authorities about that. And it's a very good kind of idea to immediately, as soon as you understand it, document it and go to the police, go to the authorities. And every country has their own sort of system to deal with it. In the US, for instance, it could be FBI. In the UK, it's a different system. In the Netherlands, for instance, it's a different system. But you have to basically always have a documentation trail. But for the child, they shouldn't feel like this is like sort of like the end of their childhood, or it's a kind of a terrible situation. We have heard of things like a child being suicidal even in these interactions. So you have to always talk to the experts, talk to a psychologist, talk to the government kind of organizations, and stay very, very calm and relaxed about it, and also convey this feeling to your child as well. Now, what you need to teach your child is actually a 3 sort of simple rules. Always make sure that the child, at least tell them to make sure that they know the identity of the other person on the other side. If they don't know them in person, it's usually a bad idea to interact with them, right? So if I know, like, for instance, if I'm a child and I know my friend from school, yeah, here and there it's okay to interact, but it's the majority of cases, it's a terrible idea to talk to strangers. Many of them are actually pretending to be a child, and it's basically not true. And you can always explain this in depth to your child. It's also important for them to understand that they have to have an internal compass. Always pause before interacting. Always basically tell an adult, a guardian, a parent about the situation. If there is any sort of, let's say, interaction from a stranger to them, you have to just let them know that they need to contact and immediately let you know. And then one very, very important rule, if I want to actually tell you one very important rule that you need to make sure that your child understands, is platform switching is the worst thing that can happen. If they are playing on Roblox, everything needs to stay on Roblox. If they are staying on Instagram, if they are on TikTok, everything needs to stay on TikTok. If they are, for instance, doing anything on Minecraft, it needs to, or Fortnite, of these games, it needs to stay on the platform. This is the most important thing. Did I hear a sound? Somebody is asking a question? Reza?
No, no one. I don't
Okay,
think
so
so.
I'm just going to continue. Um, Yeah, so wanted to say, if you have one takeout from this session, make sure that you make your child understand that they have to keep every interaction that they have, even with friends, but especially with the strangers, on the platform. Platform switching is number one reason that online solicitation happens and things go south, basically, between in these interactions. Um, we have built a very simple sort of assessment. It takes you 5 minutes to fill it out. I'm just going to put the link of the assessment here in the chat, so that if you want to learn more about your online situation and your child's online situation, you can take this assessment, and it will teach you a lot. It's a very, very simple test. It gives the risk profile of you and your child actually immediately, and it clarifies the areas that you need to focus on. Please do visit that and take the assessment. And for now, I think that's it from my side. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. I think, Reza, we have time for one or two questions, right? Any questions, anybody? Antonio says, good job. My pleasure. My question is what I actually say when my child asks why they can't have a private server kind of discussion with their children. So yeah, I mean that feeling is real. Kids are wired to care deeply about peer acceptance, especially in adolescence, but the science actually shows they are more sensitive to rewards and risks at the same time, which makes private kind of exchanges less supervised spaces and less, let's say, moderated spaces, a very difficult thing to manage, and kids are super vulnerable in these situations. So instead of a flat no, maybe we can just explain it to them, and obviously we can say this isn't about the server, or this isn't about you being on a platform, on a kind of a private server with your friends. It's more about whether you are ready to handle these situations, and that's going to be the beginning of, let's say, you helping them get through, let's say, a sort of an education and learn more about how to navigate these situations. I think that's it, Reza, for now. We have passed the time. Uh,
Um,
Ida, you wanted to mention something?
Hi,
Hello.
thank you very much. I do have a question. I'm enjoying it a lot, but I do have a question. Do you hear me?
Yes, loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Okay. So, my husband disagrees with me on regarding the screen rules. Do you have anything, any suggestion? What do we do when we're not aligned at home?
Yeah. So I want to actually make a disclaimer before answering your question, Ida. Thanks very much for the question, but I want to make a disclaimer. Everything that we do in these events, it's actually our sort of deep research and our learnings as concerned parents and adults that have already started to build a solution for these things. But obviously, we are not psychologists, and we are not child and parenting experts. We don't, by no means we want to claim that. We want to actually always refer you to the scientific body of knowledge, and we do have a lot of, let's say, a massive library of actually these things. If you wanted to learn more about these things, feel free to contact us, and we will obviously share our library with you. But to back to your question, Ida, I would say what matters most is consistency, and this is actually consistently has been shown in the research that kids adapt to more permissive parent and pushes boundaries basically with that. And when the rules are inconsistent, the main thing is that kids are exploiting usually these situations and obviously find a kind of a way to benefit from it by their understanding of the situation, but usually end up being a very bad kind of thing all in all. So number one concern with the screen time and, let's say, these things and sticking to the rule is obviously, as you mentioned, inconsistency in communication to the child. But my recommendation, based off massive body of knowledge, is for the partners to align previously or prior to the interaction with the child, and always have one united front when they are answering the child. So always say, for instance, if you either say your husband said that and I said this, ask the child, what did your dad say? You can say, for instance, whatever your dad say, I'm just gonna agree with him. And if you do it like one or two or three times, I think there is not going to be like another follow-up question on that. I hope this answered the question. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone. This was
Thanks, thanks a lot. Thank you. I for sure I will follow up. I'm enjoying a lot. Thank you again.
Of course. Of course. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our session today. Lovely to meet you all. Feel free to visit our website and connect with us on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any follow-up questions after this through email as well. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.